Some stories intertwine in such mysterious ways that they challenge our understanding. Imagine an exhausted nurse, a nighttime journey, and an unexpected encounter in the midst of a storm. What unfolds next defies all known expectations. If you enjoy thrilling stories like this, subscribe to our channel Unbelievable Lives and leave your like. Let's get into the story. On a night plunged into darkness and soaked by incessant rain, Jessica faced a desolate journey back home. The exhausting shift at Gates Hospital seemed endless, stretching beyond the scheduled hours. The night that should have been dedicated to her lovely Kate's birthday turned into a nightmare. The desire to be with her daughters, sharing simple joys and cutting the birthday cake, seemed to fade with every mile on that lonely road. Her 14-year-old daughter awaited at school, while the youngest longed for her mother to celebrate together. Frustrations mounted. Her insensitive boss, favoring a younger colleague, burdened Jessica, piling on extra work. The bakery, in a heartless act, refused to sell the cake due to Kate's age. Those tears mixed with raindrops streaming down Jessica's face reflected a whirlwind of emotions: sadness, disappointment, and an overwhelming sense of failure as a mother. Gripping the steering wheel not just to navigate the darkness but also to hold on to hope of reaching home, even if the birthday had been tarnished by discontent and misfortunes. Each raindrop hitting the windshield was like a melody echoing the silent pain she carried. The urge to just stop, break down, and let the rain wash away her sorrows was overwhelming. But Jessica knew, deep in her heart, she couldn't give up. She was a mother, responsible for her daughter's comfort and love, even when her own pain threatened to consume her entirely. Jessica was a warrior, a dedicated nurse, and a single mother, balancing the relentless demands of the hospital and the endless responsibilities at home. The exhausting routine she had taken on, working night shifts to be present during the day for her daughters, Luna and Kate, had taken a toll on her. Her weakened health was an evident consequence of this excessive effort to balance professional duties with motherhood. And there was more: the elderly mother, Mrs. Viola, battling the progression of Alzheimer's. Visiting her became an emotional test that turned into a constant duty. Amidst the confines of her mother's deteriorating mind emerged a constant narrative about a past love, a doctor whom she had supposedly fallen in love with. Mrs. Viola described him as a man with deep eyes and a floor-to-ceiling library, someone who taught poetry and spoke of medicine with contagious passion. And there, in fading memories, resided the brightest moments of Jessica's mother's life. Her mother's words echoed in Jessica's mind, as if that story, though obscured by the fog of illness, held a greater significance. It was as if, amidst her own storms, Jessica was also searching for something lost, something that could fill the void left behind by life's demands. Immersed in the storms of the past and present, Jessica remained skeptical of the narratives her mother shared. Those stories were mere mirages, attempts to soften the bitter reality of being abandoned by the man Viola had once intensely loved. From a young age, Jessica believed that her mother's abandonment in middle age by her father was the root of her own feelings of loneliness and abandonment. This emotional burden intensified when her own marriage crumbled. Her ex-husband left her for another woman when Kate was about to come into the world, leaving deep emotional scars on Jessica. Every time her boss favored younger nurses, like on that night, those emotional wounds resurfaced with a tearing intensity. Yet, despite the crushing weight, Jessica chose to shield her daughters from the harsh truth about their father's abandonment. It was a solitary burden to carry the pain for herself, but she sacrificed her own peace to preserve her daughter's innocence. As she drove on that dark night, the downpour outside echoed Jessica's inner storm. Yet, her mental turmoil was abruptly interrupted by the sight of an elderly man on the roadside, helpless and completely drenched by the rain. His frail figure, struggling with the road's hardships, surprised Jessica, illuminated only by the faint light of her car. She couldn't contain her empathy at that desolate scene. Muttering to herself about how that poor man ended up in that situation, Jessica felt an impulse of solidarity, even though circumstances suggested otherwise. Jessica's compassionate instinct, shaped by years of nursing care, led her to make an impulsive decision to stop the car. She activated the hazard lights, rolled down the window, and offered a ride to the drenched man. Gratefully, he accepted, revealing that he was heading to 123 Maple Street. As they drove, Jessica noticed something familiar in that gentle smile, in the voice, and in the man's gaze. He appeared to be about 60 years old, maybe 62. Suddenly, Breaking the silence, he made an unexpected comment about his sadness, leaving Jessica perplexed. As if a floodgate had opened, Jessica poured out all her distress to the man, talking about her frustrations at work, the distance from her daughters, and the difficulty of visiting her mother. Strangely, a calm began to seep in as she vented. It felt like the man understood every word, every emotion, as if he knew that everything would be all right. Jessica felt heard and understood in a way she hadn't experienced in a long time. He embraced her words as if they were precious. Thanking for venting, she apologized for unloading her problems onto a stranger. The man, reassuringly, explained how talking to a stranger sometimes could be the necessary therapy. Intrigued and a bit embarrassed, she asked to know more about him. During the remainder of the trip, he shared his love for medical books and how his library was his refuge. As the conversation flowed, the man began to talk about his family, mentioning details that strangely resembled the stories told by Mrs. Viola, Jessica's mother. He described a woman he separated from due to uncontrollable reasons, a redhead with green eyes, a description echoing Jessica's mother's appearance. A shiver ran through Jessica's body. Every word of the man seemed to align with her mother's stories. Discomfort began to settle as she started to realize the peculiarity of the situation. Something beyond the ordinary seemed to unfold on that trip. Wow, what a fascinating story. It's truly thrilling to see how everything fell into place in the end, isn't it? All these mysterious journeys and how they unfolded in Jessica's life are truly astonishing. If you were in her shoes, what would you do? Would you follow the old man to unravel more mysteries, or would you think it was just a product of your tired mind? Tell me in the comments. While Jessica processed everything that had happened, the man, Joseph, shared about his past with her mother. He revealed that he and Viola were in love, even planning to marry, but an unexpected pregnancy separated them before they could formalize their commitment. Joseph then acquired a ring to propose to Viola, but she became pregnant before he could do so. The revelation left Jessica stunned. Joseph, the man in front of her, seemed to be the intersection point between her mother's stories and her own reality. He bid farewell, walking towards a desolate house on Maple Street. With an inexplicable impulse, Jessica followed Joseph to the house. Every detail was strangely familiar, as if she had been there before, even though she knew she hadn't. Upon entering the residence, she came across a library, exactly as her mother had described. And amidst the books, a dusty photograph showing Viola and Joseph smiling, radiating happiness. The impact of the discovery made Jessica stagger emotionally. Joseph handed her a small velvet case and told her to use it to change her life, stating that he had always loved her since he knew of her existence. Shaken and flooded with conflicting emotions, Jessica left the house with the box in her hands. That relic was the ring that Joseph intended to give to her mother. The weight of the event made her see her life in a new perspective. With the sale of the ring, she gained a substantial sum, significantly transforming her life and her mother's. She found a renewed purpose, prioritizing being present for her daughters and for Viola. The story, though without clear answers on how everything fit together, resonates deeply in Jessica's life, inspiring her to live fully. She began to cherish every moment and face challenges with gratitude, knowing that she was guided by the love of the father she never knew, but who had always been present in some way. What an incredible twist, right? If you liked this story, I assure you the next video will be equally thrilling. Don't forget to subscribe to the Unbelievable Lives channel, leave your like, and turn on notifications so you won't miss our next narratives. Until then, a big hug, and see you in the next story.